All right, we're gonna get ready to get started. We'll some more people will join us. We're excited about this month's webinar. This is our largest attendance number that we've had at least in the last handful of months. We're nearing 100 registrants. So welcome everyone. We're glad there is an interest for to get your kind of random questions answered. You guys all submitted a bunch of great questions, so much so that we are not going to be able to get to all of them today. But next month, January's Level Up webinar will be a continuation of the same topic. We'll have sent some more information out about that. But just to let you know, if you don't hear your question get answered, we will be doing this again next month. Same housekeeping items as normal. We are recording this session. So if there's something you missed or something you want to watch again, we will send this out. I'll send this out either today or tomorrow. And so that everyone has a copy of the deck and also the recording of the webinar. So this month we are going to be slaying your database questions. Sorry in advance for all the holiday themed puns that we're going to be using and for our disappearing hats that don't work with the virtual background. So there it goes. Okay. Christine, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Christine Robertson. I'm the consulting manager here at Impact, currently in Charlotte, North Carolina, but so much fun today to read through all the different locations. In the registrations, I've seen my grandparents' hometown, my hometown in the Midwest where I grew up, and my very first Razor's Edge job is also represented here today. So fun little walk through my life, just looking at all of you here today. I started in Razor's Edge in 2005, so I celebrate 20 years of Razor's Edge next month. I've been consulting in Razor's Edge since 2014, so 10 years of consulting, and looking forward to many more. Kevin?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Wood. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was a Razor's Edge user for 15 years and an independent consultant for a number of those years as well. And I joined Impact 3 years ago. I've been a Razor's Edge consultant this whole time. And I'm so happy to be here and so happy you're with us. Now, typically we start a webinar with poll questions for you, but today we do not have any questions for you because today's agenda is just answering your questions. And again, you all submitted a lot of really great questions. We have a couple that we're going to highlight and maybe do kind of some show and tell within Razor's Edge. And then we'll kind of go through a lot of them on one of our last slides. But if there's something that comes up, any questions, comments about any specific things that we're talking about, please put those in the chat. We will try our best to answer them in our allotted time. And if not, that'll be stuff that we can populate next month's webinar with. So feel free to use the chat. So
Absolutely.
First up, how do I export reports? This is a very kind of a general topic. And really, truly, the answer is just hitting a button. But I want to show you one thing that I always like to talk about when I'm doing kind of new Razor's Edge training, because it's something that doesn't come up in maybe not any of our kind of Blackbaud University classes. So I have a report pulled up here in database view. This very first button up here is the export button. What's nice about this is you can define what format you want your export to come in. Typically, all the canned reports in database view are PDF backed, like original Crystal reports. And so the nicest format that you can get these reports in is as a PDF, but you do have the option of downloading these reports in Excel and Word and whatever else. It's a little funky if you want to get it into Excel, but you need to do some cleanup over there. The destination to save it to either to your computer is the disk file, and you hit OK. Now, this is going to ask you where you want to save it. If you've been using database view for a long time, I can't tell how many times I've clicked through all of my folder locations in here to find my desktop or wherever it is I want to save it. Or I mean, we're talking about like could be 5 or 10 clicks at a time just to get to that location. The reason that I pulled this question out is because I wanted to go through the user options. And in database view, under tools, we have our user options here. Now, there's a lot of stuff. We could probably do a whole webinar just on user options because there's a lot of cool personalization that you can do within user options. One thing to note, these are specific to your login. So this is not going to change anybody else's experience or look and feel of how they're doing using their database view. And if we set this location. Everyone needs to do it in order to get this. But under File Locations tab, there's a lot of things that aren't used anymore. This is kind of a historic area of Razor's Edge. But one of the important parts is the Export Import Data file. What this does, you can click on this, and this brings up your Windows Explorer that you can define a specific folder. And when you do that, and I usually save stuff on my desktop and move it to wherever it needs to go or delete it when I'm done with it. But so I go to users, I click on my name, and I can click on desktop. What this will allow me to do is the next time that I hit that export, desktop will be the first thing I see. So hopefully save you a bunch of clicks in the future there. So now I've done this. Now I should show you that it actually works. So I've saved this. I'm gonna hit apply, hit OK, and I'm gonna rerun my export. I'm not sure if it's gonna do it, but I'm gonna rerun my export, and then I'm gonna hit export again. You'll see with the file location, and you'll see all these clicks that I've saved, hopefully.
So when you're done, we do have a request for you to show how you get to your user options
Yeah,
one
I'll
more
do that
time,
again.
because this has definitely been a helpful thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, and of course,
Yeah.
didn't work. Let me go to an export and see if I can do it there. Oh, I gotta leave this.
You got to have a field there.
Yeah, it has to have one field.
Yeah.
Okay, and there it goes. That works there. So at least an export it'll allow us to do that. And it goes right to our desktop. Again, save me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clicks. Okay, user options are under tools. Under tools, user options. And then I went to the file location tab. And that's where that is right there. Cool. All right. On to the next question. Christine, I think this
All right.
is you.
So query in WebView, I'm going to let Kevin go to WebView. So if you've been using query in database view, the query in WebView is going to look really similar. I know not everyone has it yet because it's getting rolled out in phases, but we thought this was a great time to showcase it. So go ahead and open that for us.
I think everyone might have it now. I think that was like last week.
It may be. One couple of things just I want to highlight is the tabs are almost exactly the same. And I say almost because there's actually one more tab, which is one of the highlights that I like about it. But if we click on new query, we'll just take
and one thing to note, that you see this whole list of queries, these come over from database view when queries available for you.
Yes. There is a question about pulling reports in database view. Quick answer to that. At the moment, I'm still a really big fan of pulling my reports in database view, especially if it's something I have to give to finance, because it's easier to know that you have your criteria exactly how you want it. WebView still kind of makes some decisions for us that sometimes make it hard to verify numbers. But I say that answer with the grain of salt that Blackbaud is working on new reporting functionality in WebView. So that answer is true for me today. If you ask us again next month, if they've rolled out new reporting, we reserve the right to change that answer as they give us new functionality. But for now, I would still do all financial reporting in database view. So you're going to select your query type and your query format, which most of the time is constituent and dynamic, same as database view. Go ahead and click OK on that. And we've got our tabs that are similar to what we see in database view. So criteria, what do we want in our query? Output, what data do you want to see about the criteria that you've chosen? Sort, how do you want to sort it? And then the one tab that's new is this options tab. And it's actually not new in the sense that these options have always been available in query, but you had to know where to go to find them.
Easier to get to it this way.
Yeah, it's just easier to get to it. But the biggest reason to pay attention to this, in my opinion, is the gift processing. And what do you want to do about soft credits? I'm sure Kevin would say the same thing. I can't tell you how many times people miss the options in database view and they didn't include their soft credits, or they did and they didn't want to, or etc. So yes, this is one of the best parts for that. Couple things just to make sure you're aware. Just like in database view, if someone meets the criteria and the output more than once, you will see them more than once. So that's just a thing to be aware of. So Sherry asked a question about the buttons for soft credit. And what that means is it depends on how you count someone. So let's say we're doing a query on all alumni who've made a gift in the year 2024. Do you want just people who have a hard credit gift in 2024? Do you want just people who have a soft credit gift in 2024? Or do you want people who have both hard credits and soft credits? It also would affect when you're doing a total. What was my total giving in 2024? If you use a summary field, do you want that total to include my hard credits and my soft credits, or just one or the other? So great question. Definitely something to be paying attention to, and start playing with the query. There's a question that just came through about email lists. So as far as I know right now, the NXT emails are still working with lists. I haven't played with pulling them from an NXT query. So I think I'd have to, let's put a pin on that one, and we'll look at that a bit more before we do the webinar next time.
Yeah.
So Joy, you would still need to export in database view to remove duplicates. Thanks, Ruth. All right, let's go to our next slide. So streamline annual giving and organize by giving level. So this most straightforward way to do this is still going to be with donor categories, in my opinion. So Kevin, why don't you go ahead and in WebView, let's look at our tables and where you would set up your donor categories. So you do have the option to have 3 different donor categories, which can be immensely helpful if you group your donors 3 different ways throughout the year. What these do is they let you set them up and say, I want to call this group of donors, donors 1,000 and under, donors, between 1,000 and 5,000, so on and so forth. You can give those names. They may be something you tell your donors about, they may not, but you would go ahead and set up your categories here. And then if you go back to database view, there is a donor category report that will allow you to group people into those categories based on your time frame, based on their giving. Again, you can choose soft credits, hard credits. I know that this view is not necessarily everyone's favorite because it does come out in a PDF, but you can move it to Excel and kind of play with it. And I'm hopeful that we're going to get something better for that in moving forward, because this is a great source of information. It's just not always the format that we want.
Yeah, and the table so that you saw the tables that we set up in WebView, they are kind of buried when you kind of tell the report which table you want to pull from. Under the format tab, under the detail section, you can say which of these 3 donor category tables you want to use. And if you saw from a minute ago, we had friend, curator, chairman, and founder. Those are the 4 options. And you can even tell it, I only want to look at one or more, a couple of the categories or all of them. But this is where you select which table you want to use.
And the great thing about this, as opposed to adding these fields to like an attribute or something, is that really donor categories are an ever-changing thing. What I gave to this year isn't what I'm going to give next year. I may miss a year, I may increase. Donor categories are they're a dynamic living thing. Whereas if we add some kind of a tag or an attribute, it's only true when we added it. It doesn't grow with us. So I really want to mention this as a way to keep this growing and evolving with you instead of you constantly trying to clean it up. Ruth, I'm so glad that this is a new one for you. Glad to share it.
So one of the things we will often use this report for is our annual report. And we just talked about soft credits a minute ago when we were in query, but we have those same kind of filters here that we can look at how you want to handle soft credits. One of the things that makes this report maybe difficult to use for an annual report is when you have family foundation, donor advice fund giving, so you want to make sure you're including that, but you don't want the husband and the wife to both be included. One of the things that I kind of use this for is to make an output query, because then we can take that output query to export and do head of household processing, and we can export it to Excel to make it a little bit more of a digestible format that we can edit and then maybe use that to generate our annual report.
Yeah, and in export, you can easily do a summary of their giving, so you can group them however you need to. So there's a few more steps, but it's a great way to get what you need.
Cool.
So Ruth, it doesn't actually place the category on the donor record. It just places the donor in that category on this report.
And it's point in time information. So because again, as Christine was mentioning, that the donor levels could be changing maybe daily. So it's not going to tag it. It's just going to put them in that on the for the reports purpose, and then you can run it again at a later point in time.
Yeah.
Next, how do I make the most out of the mapping feature? So let me jump back into WebView. Um, One of the things that you can only do in WebView, which is really nice, is the mapping feature. I'm gonna I'm gonna make a list real quick. Apologies for not having this already made, but at least I can show you kind of how to get to the filters that we need. Um, so this is just a brand new list in WebView. I'm gonna click on the filter button here, and this kind of opens up to all the things that we're able to filter on. One of the categories is location, and one of the options under location is address radius, or an address mapping as well. I'm just gonna select radius because I think this is the better of the two. But mapping, you can just draw a square on the map and find all the people that live in that square. So address radius. Now you see that it now becomes a filterable field that we can filter on. So I'm going to click on this, and now I'm going to look for everybody that lives around Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, and maybe let's say, I don't know how many people are in this test database. We're going to say 500 miles out around Cincinnati, Ohio. One of the applications, especially for schools, but for national organizations, when you're having regional events, this is such a game changer when trying to put together your invitation list. Back in the day, we had to do by like zip code starts with, or cities or states, and kind of draw down from that. This makes it really nice to where you can just basically draw a circle on a map and say everyone that falls into this. So we have 759 constituents in our test environment here that live within 500 miles of Cincinnati. To visualize it, you can drop the pins on the map, which is really nice. So if you're thinking about putting together some kind of images for maybe a magazine or some kind of email, you can say, here's where all of our alums live, or here's where all of our donors live. And you can kind of pin it on a map. And all of these things, as we zoom down, it'll actually get down to the street level and put pins on the map on the street level. So now instead of national organizations, we're talking about super micro regional organizations where maybe we want to hold an event at someone's house and we can see who lives in their neighborhood. This will do that for you as we drill down again to the street level, which is really cool. And
Um,
you
yeah.
can click on the flag and see the person's name and address as well, and then
And
click
this
into
is all fake data, so please know we're not sharing any real people with
yeah,
you at the moment.
right.
Just to clarify, Lisa's question about the maiden name and lists, we really don't have functionality to change a lot of the columns in list, but every list can easily be converted into a static query in database view, and you can pull whatever data you want out with an export. So that's a time where creating an export that you use all the time that has the category, all the fields that you want to see, and just make a new static query from your list, link it to that export, and you can pull it pretty quickly if you're reusing your export over and over.
But if you have an addressee salutation formula that includes maiden name, you can select which specific addressee or salutation that you want to use here on the format in individual section way down here. But so you can pull right from either their record or from a formula that you have made, and it'll make the formula for you on the fly. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got tons of time. That's
Good.
awesome.
Still have some more things to go though.
Yeah.
So
So I mentioned we've pulled out some questions that we wanted to do some show and tell on. We now have a slide of a bunch of questions that you all asked, and this is going to be more rapid fire, but we're going to kind of go through them one at a time.
yeah, so the first one, how do we recommend using the shared address feature? Should it be used for spouses/children, or is it intended for other use? I will give you my short answer first, and then I'll go into it. My short answer is I don't. I actually don't like the shared address feature. I understand why people use it, and I understand why it was helpful when Razor's Edge first came along, because it meant that if you went into Razor's Edge and you changed my address, you automatically changed my husband's address. Bada bing, bada boom, everything is great. But the reason I don't like it is because I spent 3 years working at a school, and I had children linked to their parents, the parents linked to each other, and it was great until the children grew up and moved out of their house, and I ran Address Finder, And suddenly the whole family moved to an apartment in the city because one of them was on the NCOA CAS update list for that affected address finder. It was also extremely awkward when parents got divorced and the ex-wife moved along with the ex-husband. So for me, I found there were too many times where it caused me problems with donors and it caused me problems with constituents that I would rather update everyone's address one by one and not have a shared feature that updates automatically. Um, that is my personal preference. There are other people who love the shared address feature because they find it saves them time and they find it helpful. I can agree to disagree with. That's where you land, but that's where I land, and you asked for our opinion, so you got it. Kevin,
Yeah, and
anything?
especially with Address Finder being included for everyone that runs quarterly, it takes out so much of the manual update that we were typically doing before. So um, again, yeah, not sharing addresses but using Address Finder, I think in the long run will save you a ton of time more than having linked addresses to begin with.
Absolutely. Um, how can I set up recurring gifts that can be applied against pledges? Caveat to this is there, depending on exactly what was meant by this question, the answer is you can't. But you can make pledges recurring credit card payments. So I'll back up just a little bit. If your donor has a pledge in Razor's Edge and they go on your online giving form, and especially if your online giving form is Online Express or Razor's Edge NXT, and they create a recurring gift and they intend for that recurring gift to be applied to their pledge, the unfortunate reality is it can't be. You can do a couple of things. One would be leave the recurring gift, let it continue to charge, do something about the pledge, write it off, adjust it, make your finance happy, whatever you do on that end. You can also, write off the pledge as they make the payment. So there's a lot of different things with that. The other thing that you can do is if you enter the credit card information directly on the pledge, and you do at the moment, that does need to be done in database view. You can charge the credit card in a Razor's Edge batch in database view on a monthly basis. So you get the same end result of the credit card is being charged monthly to pay the pledge. That comes in cleanly. I am really hoping that we will see that in WebView very soon because we have automatically charging recurring gifts in WebView. I think we should have automatically charging pledges in WebView, but we don't yet. So unfortunately, the answer to this is there is no good answer. There are a couple different workarounds. The next question, I will just completely say this is not actually a quick answer. This is a long and complicated answer in a sense, but I'll give you a bit of a summary of how you can do it and just know that it is not a quick, we can't walk you through every single step. Segmenting a list in Razor's Edge currently is still a database view thing. And the one place where you can do a segmentation in a true sense is in Razor's Edge Mail under Quick Letters. So we did do a webinar on that not too long ago. So if this is your question and you'd like us to send you that recording of that webinar, we'd be very happy to do that. Just let Kevin know when he sends the follow-up emails later today. You would need to go into that area of Razor's Edge, build out your segmentation, and assign your appeals and or packages to everyone who should be getting these specific email marketing correspondence. Then you can use the appeals and packages in WebView to send the list in segments. So it's not a quick, easy answer, but that's how you would do it. Online forms, fund designation issues when the fund designated is the same as the fund. Yes, this is absolutely a problem. I've worked through this with a couple of clients. The best way to fix this is to make a fund for the donor cover that is not used for anything else. So talk to your finance. Anytime we talk about funds, if we forget to say it, please just hear it in your head. Anytime we talk about funds or general ledger or anything like that, always talk to finance first. We will not ever try to override your finance team. But the best way to make that not happen is a separate fund, because you can't have two segments, or not segments, splits. If you have a fund there, it's going to split the gift, and you cannot have two splits with identical campaign fund and appeal. So Carlene asked if that creates a split. Yes, if you do not want it to create a split, then do not add a fund in the settings in WebView for it to be connected to donor cover. So if you are linking a fund to donor cover, I recommend it be a fund that is only used for those fees. Donor cover is someone else has added that. Donor cover is something that Blackbaud is offering in the NXT WebView giving forms, where your donors can choose to add on to their gift to cover the cost of the fees. So there's Blackbaud cover, there's donor cover, and there's organization cover. Won't get into all of the differences there because that's a totally separate question. But donor cover is when the donor is asked, do you want to cover the fees? And when they do, you get that amount as well.
It increases their gift by the amount that they want to do. Yeah.
So lots of great questions there. Attaching documents in WebView and you can't see them in database view. I think the answer to that is it's probably not going to ever come to database view. The reality is database view will go away someday. Blackbaud has not announced a date yet. So if anyone tells you there's a date, unless they have Blackbaud and they're a product manager and it's an official documentation, I would keep any of their dates with a bit of grain of salt. We know with FE, Blackbaud announced it in writing for a very long time, and it's still not gone yet. So I say that to say you're going to get it in writing from Blackbaud when it goes away, so don't panic yet. But it is going away. They're not going to add anything to database view at this time unless they're fixing something that's horribly broken. So I think it's pretty safe to assume nothing new is coming to database view. That's just not where they're focused. The last one on this slide anyway. How do I make a global change or some kind of import to delete a set of attributes that end up with no description? This one we're going to need to do a bit of show and tell for. So Kevin, I'm going to have you come to database view. If you go to admin and you go to globally change records, I'm assuming you mean a constituent attribute. If you have a different type of attribute, like a gift attribute, you would just go to that section of the database. So just keep that in mind. Go down to attributes. And under attributes, instead of choosing the name of the attribute, choose the one that says attributes. If you click on the operations there, click on delete, and then category, choose the one that you want. And then for this specific example, leave your description blank. That will delete everyone who has that attribute category with a blank description. Of course, if you wanted to delete specific descriptions, then you would populate that there. Click OK, and then you can click change now, and that will remove it. As always with global changes, I do recommend a query of exceptions and a query of changed records, just as a backup for yourself in case something goes haywire. But
I would also suggest starting with the query as well.
Yes,
so you absolutely know which records you're touching and not just all of them.
Yes, I should have mentioned the query from the start. So this one's not a hard one, just have to know where to go. All right.
We'll also delete.
So it can also delete attributes in that category that have descriptions. Definitely make sure. I did test it with one simple record that did not have a description. I would do a double check just to make sure that if you do one with a blank description, it should not delete anyone that has a description. But again, that's where double check it. Make sure you've got some backup on that too. I would export out everyone who does have the attribute in a spreadsheet, do your global change, and then if everything looks perfect, delete your spreadsheet. If it doesn't, then it's really easy to put it back in.
Yeah, and really with anything that you do, once you hit admin, I always suggest do it on a test group first, whether that's import, globally delete, globally add, whatever. Do it on a test record or records first. That way you absolutely know what you're getting yourself into, because for the most part, when you're doing anything under admin, there is no undo. If you're going to globally delete, it's going to be gone.
Yeah. And I would do a static query. Especially with global changes, I always do a static query. It just means that if I mess up, I at least know who I messed up. Whereas a
We've all
dynamic,
been there. We've all done it.
we've all done it. But with a dynamic query, once you've changed it, the query no longer contains the people. Whereas a static, and for anyone who doesn't know that difference, the static is a snapshot in time from when you made the query. So they're great for things like local change, where it's like, well, who do we want to change? And then if we change it and we realize, oops, we messed up, we can find them. It's also great for schools when you want to say, well, who were the current parents in the 23-24 school year versus the current parents in the 24-25 school year. When I worked at a school, I always made a static query on the last day of school. Who are my current parents as of today? And then I started changing their codes and updating it. So just a couple little tips from people who've made mistakes along the way and learned the hard way. Let's see. One of the other questions somebody asked about database view training classes for beginners in WebView. Definitely I know Blackbaud has had some things out there, and we've been doing some different things. We're trying to get some more webinars. So that's definitely something that we're looking at, how we can offer some more training. We do have a couple of ongoing training options on a slide later. So we'll get to some of that. Looking over questions because we've got so many today.
Yeah, feel free if there's
Yes,
anything that we
please
kind of
feel
sort
free
of
to
talked
keep
about,
adding
or
things.
if there's anything that we haven't talked about at all that you want answered, feel free to drop that in the chat. We do have a couple of minutes before we're done here today. We do have a couple more
Um,
slides too, but this is if there's any questions, go ahead and drop them.
Well, yes. And one thing, I know we had a couple questions about receipts. I think let's show the annual giving statement report as well as the receipts in WebView. Just so people have
Oh,
a
that
couple
should,
options as
yeah.
we're going into January, and lots of people have. So annual giving statement in database view, this is what those of us who were in Razor's Edge 20 years ago, this is what we sent every year in January to show donors what they gave. They print in PDFs, and that is just the option that we have there. This is great if you're sending it by paper mail. You do have a lot of customization here, but you have to send it in paper mail. So Blackbaud has given us a new option in WebView. It works for some people. It doesn't work for everybody, but Kevin, would you show that really quickly?
I'm sorry.
Just so
I
people
was
know where
reading the
to
chat.
go.
What did you say?
The giving statements in WebView,
Oh, in
just
WebView,
so
yes.
people can see the two options.
Give me a second.
So the giving statements, we don't get any choice of what gifts. We just get a time frame. It does not include stock. It does not include gift in kind, but you can send them via email, or you can print PDFs. So this is another option to look at. Definitely recommend you check out both of them, see what works for your organization and for your team.
Yeah, and a lot of you had mentioned that in the when you're in database view, the option is the paper mail. The other thing you can do is export it as a PDF. That way, if someone is just emailing you like, "Hey, can you send me my gifts from last year?" You have the ability to download that now. You can't unless you're like printing it on letterhead and then scanning it. Like you really are limited on what you can actually add to that document. But that is something that for kind of an informal list of gifts, you can do that, save it as a PDF and email it out. But that's all kind of manual.
Yeah. Okay, we've got several here. So LiveBunt report. So database view has a canned LiveBunt report. It is under the analytical, and it's LiveBunt there. So definitely would recommend you start there. I know some people will build their own things, but that's always a great place to start. And a question about pulling relationships. Unfortunately, if you're using email in Razor's Edge NXT, you have to work with constituents, and you can only work with one email address at a time. So the options are, quite honestly, making them all constituents, which I know that's a cost and not necessarily what you want to do, but it is what it is. The other option would be working with something like a MailChimp, where you can have multiple email addresses without creating constituents. But again, there's often a cost to that as well. I don't think there's any other way to use relationships. There might have been an Online Express, but I'm not remembering that off the top of my head right now. So I don't want to guarantee that, but there's not really good answers there.
I saw that. That was a discussion question in the Facebook user group like an hour ago. People, this might have been
Yeah,
the same
so
person that
definitely
was
check
talking
that
about
out.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, Joy, I saw the follow up about the annual statement report. And Joanne took the words out of my mouth. You can add any language you want in the report footer or the page
Mhm.
footer, or if it's only one page, to put all of the necessary um, tax language that you need to kind of depending on what country you're in. But you have kind of free text here that you can add that.
So the $0 recurring gift transactions, two things. First and foremost, if you're getting $0 recurring gifts, make sure you address your recurring gifts so that you don't keep getting them. So before you do anything else, that's where I would start. Put them on hold if you think you're going to get the information to update it. Mark them completed, mark them terminated. Don't leave them active when they're not processing. Second of all, and Kevin, I know we were talking about this just a little bit ago. You can also merge those $0 transactions onto a dummy record and then delete that dummy record to get rid of those gifts. They're not easy to just delete, but they do complicate a lot of things. So I'm hoping that that's going to be something we get an easier answer
Oh no,
for.
we might not be able to do that anymore. Aiden,
Uh,
I don't think you can do that any longer. Wait, which part can't you do any longer? The deleting or the moving? Oh, merging and deleting. Okay.
okay.
Can you change the constituent on the GIF though?
You can change the constituent on the gift, so you could
Oh,
always dump them somewhere else. Um, but yeah, those are a really complicated piece. Ruth, batch setup, it depends on which batch you're in, if you're in WebView or Database View. Database View, we have a lot more control over what batches we're working, like what columns you want, what defaults you have. Personally, I am still a much bigger fan of gift entry in Database View over WebView. My
mm.
biggest reason is because WebView does not make me enter all of my required fields, and I don't like that. I don't want to miss things. But in data, this is database view. I'll let Kevin show you that really quickly.
Yeah. So, what was the specific question?
Change. How do you change the columns so it pulls the columns in a
Oh,
certain order? So if you load from a
yeah.
template, you
Yeah.
can
So,
set that up and just use the same thing over and over.
yeah. So if we, let me see. So we always make I always like to make a templated cache batch. And you can load the defaults there. And obviously you can move the columns on the fields tab. You can move the columns up and down. And you could also go into your default set and reorder the columns, save it. And then when you load them in, they're going to be in that updated order.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the default would be go ahead.
Yeah, so the default set is not, you don't necessarily mark it as a default, but the way we think about it is we just create a batch that kind of matches up to whatever kinds of gifts we're going to enter generally. So you see here, we have a default cash, default check, default credit card. This is not a special batch. It is just a batch that we saved with that name. So when we go to our settings here, we just called the batch number is called default cash so that we know as when we're doing gift entry, we're sitting down with a stack of cash or a stack of checks. We know that we can pull this, and these are all the fields that we're going to need to successfully enter that batch of gifts. And so we can change the order around and save it. And then the next time we go and load that default set, it'll be in that those columns will be in that same order. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot of info. Luckily, we're recording this. That was we like went through like a ton of information here in just a couple minutes. Um, so this is the reason why we're going to do this again in January. We have a lot more questions that were submitted that we didn't get to answer, and we'll ask you guys again for more questions. So anything else that we need to touch upon again, we'll absolutely do that. Let me jump back into the slides. I do have a couple. We have a couple things that we wanted to talk about because this webinar is nice. Talking and like through chat with everyone is really nice to kind of hear how other people are doing things. But there are some resources that are available that are kind of outside Blackbaud that we have for us. One is this webinar series, which we do once a month. Second is the Razor's Edge users group support forum on Facebook. It is one of the most active communities that I'm involved in. There's constantly messages being asked there. There's constantly questions being answered by a lot of people that are with us today. There's a lot of people that have been using Razor's Edge since the Stone Age that have all the answers. And so there's always that's always a really good place to ask a question and get some answers. Also to commiserate with things that you want to complain about. So that's one place. The Blackbaud community is great. You use your Blackbaud login, and you can be product specific areas. So if you use other Blackbaud products, you can go just to that community. Very similar. You can ask questions and get questions answered, but it's not as active as the Facebook user group. Um, Christine hosts two different in-person user groups in the North Carolina, South Carolina area. I'm going to be hosting. I hosted one last year in Cincinnati. I think this year in 25 it's going to be in Dayton. But there's, if you're in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, um, make sure you send me an email or send Christine an email to let us know you're interested. We have some interest email list that we can put your email on there and make sure we send out that
Yeah.
information.
And there are other groups as well. I know the Louisville, Kentucky group has been super active. I was a part of that many years ago. Um, Judith Youngblood's been running that. So I'd happy to connect you with that, or anyone else we know of, because even if it's not our group, it's a great way for you to learn.
Yeah, and there are regional Facebook groups as well. I know there's one in like northern New England. There's one in Pennsylvania. There's one in Louisville. There's a bunch of regional. So just go ahead and search like Razor's Edge on Facebook, and you'll hopefully be connected with someone that's close to you. And if there isn't one, feel free to make it. Let us know. We'll make it, and we can manage it.
We'll help you promote it.
Yeah.
We really feel strongly that user groups are a great way for people to learn and build connections. I know that's how I got my start. So I want to help see those thrive.
Yep. So just a note for January's webinar, it is not on the Wednesday at noon. It's going to be on a Thursday, January 16th at noon. I'm going to send this deck out. There's the registration link on this slide. I'll also put it in the email. So make sure you mark your calendars now. And what everyone's been waiting for is the raffle that we're going to raffle off 2 free consulting hours for your organization. This is everyone that registered. And so I have the wheel pulled up with everyone that registered on here. And so now, just as we are nearing the end of our webinar, we are going to spin the wheel.
I did just pop the link for the January webinar in the chat, so feel free to use that and register already.
All right.
All right,
Celine, congratulations. We will reach out to you later on today or tomorrow with the information on how to get those hours booked. So we are a services organization. One of the ways, here are some ways that we help our organizations. We do a lot of database assessments. We do a lot of customized in-person and remote training. And we just sell consulting hours for kind of a la carte support. Our team of consultants in both Razor's Edge and Financial Edge have hundreds of years in the industry working at nonprofits and hundreds of years working in and around the technology. A lot of us have worked at Blackbaud, but a lot of us have worked partner organizations, but just been in the nonprofit technology industry for a number of years. So we're able to help with just about any question that you have on your Blackbaud product. We also have a K-12 consultant that can help for schools that use education management. But please reach out to either myself or Christine if you want some more information about how to work and partner with Impact. We really thrive on helping you deliver your mission. So if the technology is standing in the way, we can absolutely knock down those barriers. Now we have one last poll question for you, or one poll question. This is the first poll question of the webinar. We would love for you to answer that. If you mark down that you're ready to work with Impact now or in the spring, you will be hearing from me at some point soon. But if you're not ready for it, we are so glad that you're here. Again, we just love the conversation and love the idea sharing. So we're happy to do this webinar monthly. It's for everyone in the community.
Absolutely. Please send us more questions for January. If we have too many questions, we'll just have to keep doing question and answer sessions. So it's fun for us too. Thank you guys so much for joining, and happy holidays to everyone.